The fantasy football edition of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog has just added Pick'em Scorchers, where you can win 100 times your payout. That's right. Turn $5 into $500 in one game. Plus, every Sunday, they're giving away $100,000 as well. Use promo code SGPN at Underdog Fantasy for a 100% deposit bonus up to $500. We're also brought to you by Game Time. Last-minute tickets, download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. We're brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines as well. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit HOFBets.com. Use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. And we're giving away $3,000 in our NFL Second Chance Survivor contest presented by Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties. Free to enter, just go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the SGPN Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Emerson Beery, one of your hosts. I am also joined by Justin Bruni. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing well. Sunday's always a good day. A lot of football going on, a lot of podcasting going on today. This is my third bout on the mic, so excited to get into it, talk some post-Week 6, some pre-Week 7, and dive into the waiver wire mailbag here.
I took a lot of the week off this week. I went out of town, so I am back at it after a few days. So off the airwaves, actually. So had some nice relaxation. Ready to dive into some waiver wire action this week. As we usually do, we present this. We tackle some of the biggest waiver wire questions of this week. So some of the injuries, the biggest changes in the depth chart, target shares, and things like that. To begin, we'll start off with Liam Whitlock from the SGPN Fantasy Football Discord. He asks, is Kareem Hunt is available in my league? It looks like I will either lose CMC and David Montgomery or potentially both for Week 7. Thoughts on picking up Hunt? I have plenty of dead weight I can drop. I'm just curious how much FAAB I should spend with $72 remaining, 12-team PPR.
I do have the questions up in front of me here, but you may want to check your connection there, Mr. Emerson. You were going in and out there. For me, I don't know about for the listeners, but I do have it in writing, so I know exactly what you were actually saying. Kareem Hunt, I mean, $72. If you're hurting like this with CMC and David Montgomery, and this is the best that's available, what do you think? $20, right around like 30%.
I would spend probably 20-30% sounds about right. I'd spend, probably up to $32 on Kareem Hunt of that remaining budget, maybe even upwards of, I could see if you were really desperate, upwards of 42. It could be Kareem Hunt could just end up taking, he is going to get the passing down work. He got a lot of the rushing attempts today. That figures coming out of the bye, he gets a little bit more work. It would not surprise me to see him take this would be a 50-50 split or start leaning more to Kareem Hunt. So considering that, and we're getting to that time of year, you might just want to start, we're getting to desperate times, especially with injuries. I'd be willing to spend up to $42, depending on how desperate you are and your other running backs up on the roster, but somewhere between that $32 and $42.
Yeah, I think the diagnosis on CMC and David Montgomery is definitely going to make a difference for the answer here. But of this $72, I would say anywhere from 20, 21 to 25, $26. I don't know if I want to go too far beyond that. I'd like to have a nice little stash, for the rest of the season, for the back end, for the back half. So I would maybe tread a little bit lighter. I mean, I like the situation for both of those guys. Jerome Ford definitely surprised me today. If Jerome Ford surprised me, goodness to think what, my reaction was when I saw Kareem Hunt score that touchdown. I was very surprised by the Browns today, like many fans in the NFL. I don't know if this is what we want to expect week in and week out. I think he could just as very well bust as well as he did boom today. I mean, I don't think that you're going to have like a ton of conviction starting him maybe outside of next week, filling in for some injured players or bye week guys, whatever it is. So it just depends on how much you really need a win. And, if, like you said, both of these guys are out or none of them are out.
I was surprised to see how well they played, considering Deshaun Watson was out. Who knows how long he'll be out, but the offense, could potentially sustain both these guys as well. Jerome Ford in more the Nick Chubb role, Kareem Hunt in his typical role that he's had in these last couple of seasons. So that wouldn't be out of the range of outcomes, especially if the touchdown opportunity in this offense goes up just a little bit. We'll keep it going, though. The next question is from Ethan Sharp from Facebook. He asked, going to be missing Mixon and Pollard in week 7. Do you trust Salvon Ahmed to continue to contribute? What happens if Wilson comes back next week? I'm 3-3 and need a win, so can't afford to miss on waivers this week. Picked up Foreman this past week, but he was underwhelming. Spent $27 to roster him and have just $35 left. Options for me are Ahmed, Craig Reynolds, Jordan Mason, Darrington Evans, 14-team PPR. What are your thoughts, Justin?
I don't really know how interested I am in Ahmed. I mean, he got the garbage time touchdown, right? I mean, it was like the last touchdown scored in the game, I believe, for the Dolphins. And he was splitting touches with Chris Brooks behind Raheem Mostert. And I've been on the train that Jeff Wilson is just as good, if not better, than Raheem Mostert. Thought he would be the lead dog in the house here of this group coming into the season prior to that late preseason injury. I got to imagine with the return of Jeff Wilson, it makes Salvon Ahmed a little less relevant. And I only felt like he was relevant today based off of the touchdown. I really don't love any of these guys. Emerson, I like Ahmed, Craig Reynolds. I mean, Reynolds wasn't even very good filling in for Montgomery today. They were giving Khalif Raymond carries. I think even Josh Reynolds took a carry. Darrington Evans, that's just ugly. That's just ugly. They were giving him some carries in the beginning of that game, but it was Foreman down the stretch. That's how I suspect the splits to be without or Herbert. Roshan probably comes back next week, making Evans completely irrelevant. Jordan Mason also found the end zone this week. I guess I would say Mason and Ahmed are probably the most relevant, but, people go and spend a bunch of money on Jordan Mason this week, and, Elijah Mitchell winds up scoring the touchdown next week. I just really don't love anyone in this group here. I'll rank them as Mason, Ahmed, Reynolds, Evans, but, take that with a grain of salt. Like, I don't love any of these guys.
I think maybe they were a little hard on Foreman. 15 carries, 65 yards. Just considering how the offense went, Justin Fields leaving today, that I don't think that's terrible. I think there's certainly hello, Jamie and Jonathan. How you doing?
Tell Robbie I said hi.
Joining the live chat. Robbie's a good guy. Just considering how the day played out for Chicago, I still think D'Onta Foreman is going to have a say in this backfield until Khalil Herbert returns. I see this still more as a timeshare. So I actually like probably D'Onta Foreman next week, even over any of these guys that we are talking about. But Salvon Ahmed, the Dolphins have already shown that they will use the hot hand this season, and Raheem Mostert was back at it. Salvon Ahmed is just, maybe an injury away from a larger role, but Jeff Wilson, like you said, is coming back. I would say, based on Jeff Wilson's previous roles, his success in relief of Saquon Barkley and his success with Miami Dolphins last season, I would say that he probably has a leg up on Salvon Ahmed, but it's truly hard to tell, Jeff. If Jeff Wilson is still somewhere out on the waiver wire, I would spend 10 to 20%, depending on how desperate you were at running back. The rest of these guys, Jordan Mason, I don't think Christian McCaffrey is going to miss next week. If he did, you could throw a few bucks, up. If you really needed a win next week, right. You were desperate, playoffs on the line, spend maybe 10 or 12 bucks on him. But
it's really contingent on those injuries, though. Like, it's still too early to know about Montgomery. Obviously, if it's more serious, you're going to spend more. Same thing with CMC. If it's more serious, you're going to spend more. I think it sounds like here he has to start Deonta Foreman, and he's looking to start one of these guys with him, is what it looks like. So, I mean, even again, like that, like you're not doubling down on the Bears backfield. Again, I think Roschon's back next week. So Evans is just completely out of this. He's definitely in dead last year. Mason had some upside even with CMC in the game. We saw that last week as well. He'd get a little bit more of an opportunity. And that's just kind of been the MO in Shanahan's offense, right? Like at the end of last year, we were all complaining like, what the heck? Why isn't CMC getting 35 touches? Elijah Mitchell, he's not CMC. It's just that kind of that complaint, that nag. That's how they're going to operate. They're going to use multiple backs. They're not going to overload CMC when it's not necessary. So, yeah, Mason, Ahmed, Reynolds, take that information as you will.
Yes, Craig Reynolds is somebody who I think we also saw, for example, when he did got a chance to play with Jahmyr Gibbs got a lot of the rushing work too. So when Jahmyr Gibbs gets back in the lineup, which could be next week, I don't anticipate Craig Reynolds having a huge role. Jamie asking, how the F did the Browns win? I'm on a live but muted them to listen to your show. Thank you for skipping out for us, Jamie. We appreciate you checking in. Roschon, of course, we know you're a big fan, Jamie. Hopefully your boy's back next week. Before we dive into more waiver wire talk, I just want to give one more shout out to our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy has a way to play alongside your favorite football team all season long. Underdog has introduced Scorchers. Go 5 for 5 and pick them and enjoy a spicy 100 times your payout. And for a limited time, Underdog is extending the first deposit up to $500. $1,000 Sundays continue on Underdog Fantasy 2. 10 lucky players will win $10K each. I continually love taking the under on Patrick Mahomes passing props. I'm a Chiefs fan, but considering how the offense is, these big players always have very high numbers because everyone loves taking the over. So those are something I always like to take advantage of every single week. So watch along, make your picks, and maybe make a little cash on Underdog's mobile app or website, underdogfantasy.com. When you sign up with promo code SGPN, Underdog will double your first deposit up to $500. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code SGPN. And of course, SGPN's Second Chance Survivor is up. Already knocked out of your NFL Survivor? Don't worry, we have you covered. Presented by Corey Pinkston and Barking Dog Properties. $3,000 up for grabs. Winner take all. Start this weekend now, so sign up today. sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/survivor. All right, we are going to be diving back into the waiver wire this week. Omar Smith from the SGPN Fantasy Football Discord asks, who do you prefer, Chuba Hubbard or Kendrick Bourne rest of season? 10-team PPR, both players are available in my home league. I have $80 of FAAB left and we'll be 4-2. Over to you, Justin.
It's ugly, but I like Chuba Hubbard more. I mean, I think both of these guys had great performances this week. I don't believe that their week 6 performances are, narratives that are going to follow them to the end of the season. You know what I mean? I think Chuba had a nice day. Kendrick Bourne had a good day. Between the two, I like Chuba more, just someone that I was higher on coming into the season. Didn't really have a pulse on Kendrick Bourne with the Patriots entering the year. I mean, obviously we see he's probably going to lead the team in targets, for the Patriots. I don't think that's that impressive because leading the, Patriots in targets is like playing NFL fantasy football, but your best players in college leading that team in targets. Like, it doesn't really matter. They're just not of value. They're not really of substance. I could just as well see Kendrick Bourne grabbing 2 catches next week for 29 yards rather than 10 for 89. Chuba, I think, will have a more consistent role on a team that will consistently want to run the ball to protect a young quarterback, whether Miles Sanders is there or not. So I'll take Chuba in that instance.
Chuba is somebody who thought has looked better than Miles Sanders a lot of the season. Maybe Miles Sanders has that lingering injury that he had before the season, could still not be healthy, but Hubbard's looked like the more productive runner a lot this season. I think he's going to continue to eat into that work share. I love stacking running backs at this time, considering how valuable just any starter can be at this moment, considering injuries piling up. I was just telling Justin before the podcast that I have a team with I had a team with J.K. Dobbins, who of course I already cut. This is a redraft league. Khalil Herbert, Devin Achane, and David Montgomery, and all those guys are all gone. It's just so the running back position gets a brutal landscape. So it
is right now, man. I lost Monty this week, Herbert the week before that, was missing Monty the week before that. Just like it's going back and forth. It's terrible.
Yes, and Kendrick Bourne, I think it's going to be tough for him to maintain a consistent role. Could be a different guy every week. Antonio Lopez in the chat. Would you do Kyren and Amari Cooper for Justin Jefferson at the moment? What do you think?
Kyren is just so important to that Rams offense right now. They're not giving anyone else any run whatsoever. Matthew Stafford is not passing for touchdowns. I'm not going to say it's Kyren's offense because obviously Cooper Kupp is still there. Puka has been excellent as well. But, man, Kyren, he's the pulse of that offense. I think you got to hang on to him. I got to believe he's a factor into your record, into your 5-1 record. Justin Jefferson stowing away. I mean, you might wind up being 5-4 by the time he comes back, if he even comes back. There's a lot of talk that the Vikings, they won today. You don't get to play Chicago every week. You know what I mean? There's a lot of sentiment going around that even if Justin Jefferson is healthy enough to come back, there's nothing going to be worth coming back to with the Vikings here. They're not going to be in a dire situation where he's necessarily needed. I do not like that move. I'm going to hold. I don't love Amari Cooper, by the way. I'm not advocating holding on to him. If I could maybe work some other, bench running back into this mix and Amari Cooper for Justin Jefferson, and you have the receiver depth, I would be for it, but not giving up Kyren.
This is tough for me. Justin Jefferson, I think just like Cooper Kupp, could end up getting right back to it once he comes back, could slide right back into that elite role, but it's tough to bank on 4 weeks from now. Is he going to come back right away from that too? Maybe wait till he's 100%. It's tough for me to risk my redraft team on that. So I'm likely
we just talked about how the running back landscape is just ever changing. You know what I mean? You got to hold on to these guys when they're rolling for you rather than trading them for somebody that's literally going to give you zero production for at minimum the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's a little too risky for me at the moment, just considering how big of a chunk of the season that is. So I'm going to hold Amari Cooper side for the moment, but Justin Jefferson is tough to pass on. Back to the waiver wire questions here. Matthew Bendello from Twitter asked, one of the teams in my league dropped Josh Downs. Slam dunk pickup, right? Do you think I'll have to spend on him? I have $56 left, wondering how much is too much to spend based on my budget. I think he's a great stash, if not a respectable flex start based on his target share. 12-team PPR. What are your thoughts, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, I want to get some Josh Downs. I, kind of wish you didn't have to pay for it. How much FAAB do they have left? 50 something?
I don't believe they said. No, they did not say in this specific. No, it's $56. I'm sorry, $56.
18 to 22. I mean, he's got to draw interest after this week.
He's somebody who I would likely spend. I'd be hard pressed to spend $22 if my wide receiver core was in decent shape, unless it was really bad. I would.
Buys coming up next week. A fair amount of buys.
I'm most likely just going $12 unless I really, really need to start next week. And I'm, Josh Downs is somebody who I did highlight in my touchdown opportunity article, who I hit on. I hit on three of the four so far. I did. If Palmer plays, I talked about him. So, nice. But I did hit on 3 of the 4, and he was one of them this week, along with Kyle Pitts. And I forgot who else I highlighted too, but so definitely check that out this week. I was on a little bit of a hot streak this week.
Love it, man.
Jamie, don't. I appreciate you ditching. Like
no
I
flex
said,
needed.
For us, Jamie. We're a little cooler, I know. Although I have Jamie, I do produce the big tilt over at Player Profiler, and he did say that Chase and his guy, who was it? Jacob Sanderson, the best duo out there. So we still have something to live up to, Justin. Moving on here.
Working on it.
Alex Holmes from the SGPN Fantasy Football Discord. This is not a waiver wire question, he states. What is Adam Thielen's trade value? Wondering what running backs I can trade for. My receivers are Kupp, Addison, Waddle, Allen, and Thielen. But my running backs are White, Algier, Madison. Lost Chuba as well. 12-team PPR.
That's tough because I don't know who's going to be trying to, separate from running backs right now. What do you think about Swifty? What about DeAndre Swift? Too expensive?
I think that's a little. I would have a hard time letting go if I was a manager and had DeAndre Swift, even though Adam Thielen he just has to be used right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think most managers are going to sell you DeAndre Swift. If I was pulling up the rankings here, somebody
Kareem?
who I don't think anybody's going to give you Kyron Williams right now.
I don't either. I wouldn't do it, but I'm trying to think of like names that someone could have maybe acquired with depth. I mean, someone could have easily paid for Kyrie off the waivers. So if
Pacheco, I think is a reasonable one.
Like, one.
Shoot for the stars. You try to get Swift, but I think Pacheco is somebody I would settle for potentially if you have Thielen and
do you sell him for Stevenson? Stevenson found the end zone this week. I'm not for that. I would rather hold
Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely would sell for Ramondre Stevenson just because he's a running back. And like I said, Adam Thielen is riding a hot streak. I just feel like the wheels could fall off at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm a little pessimistic, but Ramondre is somebody I would also sell for. I had one other one I was thinking of. James. Actually, I might hold. I was gonna say James Cook, but I know Damian Harris did just have a tragic injury, and I hope he's okay. And that was tough to see, but that could expand the role for James Cook just a little bit. So I would probably still just prefer Adam Thielen though. But those are some of the guys. Pacheco is one I think is a great target if you're an Adam Thielen owner and you maybe missed on, so you couldn't get Swift or Kyron Williams. Moving on.
5 clap in the chat asking about a good waiver wire this week.
Oh,
so far we've covered, Kareem Hunt. We've gone over some of these running backs like Ahmed, Reynolds, Mason, Darrington Evans, Chuba Hubbard, Kendrick Bourne, Josh Downs. So just roll back through the show if you're trying to catch up. But you have any other top options? I didn't see the TE.
So I had one highlighted here. I had one. Dalton Schultz, if he's available, is on a bit of a hot streak right now. Finishes the top 6 tight end in the last few weeks. I know, Justin. I know.
Who is that? Is that my friend Emerson?
It's this guy who the NFL thinks sucks. I only said that the NFL thinks he sucks at football, and he sure enough he's getting used. The 38th highest paid punter in the league, if he was a punter, Dalton Schultz out there. Josh Oliver had a far bigger contract than he did, but anyway, I was dogging on
Josh Oliver scoring touchdowns.
But Dalton Schultz, I mean, if he was going to be used this way, he needs to start yelling at his agent. I actually laughed. His contract, he ended up making like $6 million this year, just how it all worked out and how they did the contracts. Really weird, but nonetheless, he's being underpaid right now for the role that he has. So Dalton Schultz is a great player. He's not available in every single league at the moment, though. He might be a little bit more of a shallower league guy, but some of the other guys.
I was going to say, if you're looking for like a shallow league guy, I'd say Ty Conklin. Not the greatest performance this week, but he's been given a bit of a safe floor for like deeper leagues, I'd say.
Yeah, totally agree. David Njoku, if he's available, and when Deshaun Watson comes back, I still think he is a very good player out there. So those are some of the guys I would be targeting potentially. I know Hayden Hurst has had a rough few weeks, but I feel like at some point here, Hayden Hurst has to start taking on a little bit of a larger role in this offense, just considering how anemic everybody else is, except for Adam Thielen. But it has not materialized yet as well, so I wouldn't be picking him up yet, but somebody certainly to keep an eye on.
What about Michael Mayer? He went 5 for 75 today, led the Raiders in receptions.
Yeah, I worry, I guess, with Jimmy G heading out potentially again. Maybe he misses next
Again.
week. I think you might be able to wait on him, but I do like Michael Mayer as maybe a player down the season here. Might be a little tough to depend on, but in a good matchup, I think is somebody you can pursue as well.
I think he's a good stash. I don't think you're picking him up to like fire him up, but I think he's a good stash. You and I talked about him all off season long. Many, many positive attributes for Michael Mayer. Sure hands was at the top of the list. So definitely someone I'm liking to stash.
Before we dive into the rest of the show, I just want to give a shout out to our friends over at Game Time. Ticket buying can be tough. It can be stressful trying to find the best price and not getting ripped off by these big ticket companies. Game Time has you covered in that area. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theaters near you. With killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, you can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you're going to have. Browse through the Game Time app and talk about, just going through here. I am a huge fan of buying my Chiefs and Broncos tickets, the concerts that I love going to, Tool, Pantera recently, Avenged Sevenfold. Some of those I all found on the Game Time app. Flash deals and last-minute tickets. Easy to find and buy tickets for every kind of event in your area. Images of seat views, lowest price guarantee, event cancellation, job loss protection, and so much more. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theaters, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price if you find tickets in the same section and row for less. Game Time will credit you 100% of the difference. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Download the Game Time app and create an account and use code CFBX for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CFBX for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. We're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets. Win bigger by betting smarter this NFL season with Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting analytics platform for parlays, player props, and game line research. Every NFL, NBA, MLB, and soccer bet with historical stats and data. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bets revolutionary parlay optimizer as well tool to get hit rates broken down by leg as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven plays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. And we're back. Jamie, my friend, I appreciate the shout out. Great to have you in our, we love all the listeners, but we love Jamie the most because he is
when
definitely our
Jamie
most dedicated.
smiles,
We appreciate
it takes me miles. Just
Smokey
friends? No? Anyone? No?
I don't know if I got that reference. I'm a young
Ryan Reynolds, Just Friends?
Just Friends.
Jamie.
What was that movie?
Okay, wow. Okay, all right. Whatever,
was that the movie? He was like a nerdy guy. He used to be a nerd, and then
they put him in the fat suit. Yeah, they put him in the fat suit.
He's like, it's been a while.
Ryan Reynolds, but I'm so fat.
I probably haven't seen that since high school. That bringing me way back. I love it. But Waiting as a restaurant man. Anybody who hasn't seen Waiting,
way better, Reynolds, way classic. Better, but classic. Both very good still. And Smokey. And Just Friends has way more Jamie references.
Check out both those movies. Great Ryan Reynolds movies, and of course, you would think Ryan Reynolds was produced this podcast as well. But Smokey the Cat in the chat. Trade Allen and Jacobs to get Chase. I have Burrow as a backup.
I'm good with that. I'm really good with that, actually. If that's all it costs, I wish that's what I could pull off.
Yeah, I'm good with that. It kind of hurts giving up Josh Allen, but Josh Allen.
Now when you have Burrow,
Burrow, he had another kind of, I just think, lackluster day today. So I don't know if Burrow is going to be that locked in elite quarterback, but I'm not sure Josh. I'm not sure any quarterback is this season. Even
but you're building the stack though. He has Burrow, and he's going to stack him with Chase. So I mean, I just see a lot of upside in this acquirement.
Yeah, I'm not a big. stacking in a redraft leagues, I'm a stacker in best ball. I'm fine with it. It's fine. It just doesn't hurt or help me. I don't particularly think
they got their
I would do
bad
it.
games out of the way. I mean, what did Chase do today? Still 6 for 80. I mean, come on now.
A lot of targets. Once again, dominates targets. C. Higgins getting nothing out there. Back at it though over here. Continuing on the waiver wire talk. I was down to, I believe this is Mallory Vespertine from Facebook. I'm undefeated in my office league, officially 6-0. Congrats. Looking for players to stash for the rest of the season. Here are my options. Who do you like the most for the second half of the fantasy season? Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Gibson, Brandon Cooks, Zach Charbonnet, or Tyler Algier? Justin, I'll throw it over to you. It's a 10-team PPR league.
Must have a lot of roster spots. I'm going to go with Tyler Algier. I mean, that seems like it makes the most sense. Maybe it's a little bit too consistent with like the preseason narrative that he'll have a role. I just cannot buy into Zeke Elliott or Ramondre Stevenson. Gibson had a touchdown today. I think he's a very good handcuff because if Brian Robinson were to get hurt, I think that usage for Antonio Gibson becomes far more friendly because they may not be able to just give him a ton of run up the middle. They may give that to Chris Rodriguez, but you'll see a lot more opportunities still for Gibson. So I guess I would go with him after Tyler Algier, and then Brandon Cooks, Zach Charbonnet. Those two they've been ghosts. Like, they've been doing nothing. Yeah, I'll go Algier, Gibson. Golly, it's like a black hole after those two. Wow. I guess Zeke, because he actually does get stats. Like he actually does get production. Brandon Cooks and Zach Charbonnet, put him on the side of a milk bottle. Yeah. Algier, Gibson, Zeke, Cook, Charbonnet, Cooks. I really can't make up my mind. They're both bad. I mean, the situations are bad. Charbonnet, good handcuff, but do you really think they would just give him a ton of run if Walker got hurt?
I mean, I don't know who else they would give run to if Walker got hurt. They're the only two backs out there. So I do think Charbonnet is a good stash. I think he could end up being, top 15 play as soon as if Walker were injured. So I think he's interesting. Somebody, if the rosters are a little deeper and you have just an open spot, he's somebody I'd certainly, be stashing, like I said. Brandon Cooks, yeah, I mean the Dallas they haven't played a normal game the entire season. It seems like they're either winning by 30 or they're losing by 30. It's kind of tough to judge at that point, but Brandon Cooks clearly not. CeeDee Lamb isn't even getting hardly any looks out there, so it's tough for Brandon Cooks as well. So Brandon Cooks is somebody I'm okay leaving on the waiver wire. Tyler Algier is still getting about 50% of the rush attempts, so gotta as we get into these drier bye weeks, injuries beginning to pile up. Tyler Algier is valuable. Zeke Elliott got a touchdown today. All these guys are
so dirty, though. It's so dirty.
Any of these players are potentially low-end flex options, maybe with Zach Charbonnet and Brandon Cooks being kind of at the bottom of that very, very low-end flex options. But, there are players that all have potentially a lot more value based on, what happens in front of them with injuries as well. So these are more stash plays, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're 6-0. I don't even know if you need these players, I get the question. You want to just, throw it on the bench, leave them there, hope for the best. But realistically, I mean, if we're following the handcuff narrative, any one of these guys could, be a top 15 player with their counterpart, out, whether it be injury or what have you. So, I did look at Zach Charbonnet, 5 yards per carry. Not bad. I'm walking back Zach Charbonnet a little bit. You sold me a little bit on him.
Yeah, I mean, he gets some passing down work still. Kenneth Walker showing a little chops out there, but and I haven't seen the snaps this week yet, and I won't probably see that until tomorrow. But he has been running more routes than Kenneth Walker, so that's happened already for Zach Charbonnet. He's just Kenneth Walker's still getting all that goal line work, which is important. So
right.
Burrow been popping, Jay. Like I said, I thought Burrow was just okay today. Poop. Yeah, that's more. Yeah, that's more accurate. I think. Okay, not popping, but so Burrow still has a little bit of ways to go, maybe still recovering from that calf injury, but they are on a bye next week. Over to Ram Tucker from Twitter. I'm guessing Montgomery is going to miss time. This will be his second injury of the season, and this time it's a shoulder. Should I target Craig Reynolds or Jordan Mason on waivers? Not sure what's going on with CMC yet, but our waivers are really thin for running back. I could also pick up Salvin Ahmed or Dalvin Cook. I'm desperate. Help me, 12-team PPR. Was it a shoulder or a rib injury for David Montgomery?
I'm not sure.
I think it was maybe a rib injury, I thought. While I'm confirming that.
Shoulder sounds I think that's what they may have said on TV.
Yeah, it's a rib injury.
On the television. Okay, so rib injury. Yeah, tomato. His previous injury was a leg injury, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
this is tough.
It is a rib injury for David Montgomery. So, considering that, I don't think this is going to cause him to miss I could be wrong, but typically it's not. I don't see this as an injury, maybe a week or two injury. So Craig Reynolds, like I said, with considering Jahmyr Gibbs could also come back. Craig Reynolds is somebody who I just don't have a lot of faith in. Jahmyr Gibbs got a lot of that rushing work when they were both out there without David Montgomery. Jordan Mason is certainly, if CMC we were to find out he was going to miss, but neither, I guess I almost would say, want to say Craig Reynolds just because I think David Montgomery is probably a little bit more likely to miss next week's game than CMC actually. But I would definitely prefer Jordan Mason to start next week. If both were out, I would certainly start Jordan Mason. So that's kind of the catch-22 there. So I would definitely keep an eye out on the injury report ahead of Tuesday night. Jordan Mason spend maybe upwards of 10 to 12% if CMC were to miss. He's probably just going to miss a game if he did miss a game. So keep an eye on that injury report. Salvin Ahmed, like we were talking about a little bit before, is also interesting. What are your thoughts, Justin?
Just like before, I don't like any of these guys. Jordan Mason, I guess, would be leading the pack here. I think Dalvin Cook could be an interesting stash in this scenario, but not someone that you're looking to pick up to start. I just don't see anything with these guys, like talent-wise. Like Craig Reynolds has never impressed me. Jordan Mason, he looked good today. Does that mean he's good at football? I don't really know. Salvin Ahmed, again, looked good today. I've liked him in the past. Super inconsistent. Usage never really there. I just don't feel like they just love him. If Wilson comes back next week, I don't see a role for him. The only reason I like Dalvin Cook here is just because I know who Dalvin Cook is, and when given volume, if Breece Hall were to go down, I'd really like to have me some Dalvin Cook, but that's probably not going to be the case next week. So we're left with Jordan Mason. I just don't think Craig Reynolds is anything that special.
The corpse of Dalvin Cook, I just don't think has any juice left in this offense. This offense needs behind a bad offensive line, I think you need an explosive running back like Hall, to break a big play, to make a move on somebody. Dalvin Cook, he's doing nothing out there. And I think that's going to continue no matter if Breece Hall were to miss time or not. So Dalvin Cook is somebody I'm leaving on the waiver wire, somebody I'm not considering. At least it's the deepest of deepest leagues. Chandler Costino, yeah. So I have Fields and Stroud. Can only hold 2 quarterbacks. Fields could miss next week with the dislocated thumb on the throwing hand, and Stroud is on a bye. Should I trade Stroud?
I don't know. Can you get Sam Howell for him? I don't know what you're going to get for CJ Stroud. His numbers have been good, but he's coming off one of his lower games outside of the Baltimore Ravens game. This is one of his lesser performances. So it's tough to say what you can get for him. I know there's quarterbacks that you can start next week that you can get for him. I know that the Kenny Pickett owner will gladly trade you Kenny Pickett for CJ Stroud, but that's not something you're trying to do. You can only hold 2. Game. You can only hold 2. I don't get that.
Some leagues have weird rules. Brock Purdy maybe off a bad game.
I just don't see that happening.
No. Geno
you could guess
possibly.
Oh, he's been terrible. Terrible.
What was it today? It wasn't that great today.
He had 2 interceptions and no touchdowns. Yeah, it was terrible. I don't know if he has a multi-touchdown game this season, actually, now that I think about it.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, looking at it here, Sam Howell, I would much rather hold CJ Stroud, but if you were desperate and you needed a win, I could understand.
Sam Howell's the only answer I'm coming up with here because he still doesn't have necessarily like the name recognition. And, people might think he's a fraud. I don't think he's a fraud. I think he's been pretty solid. But
is somebody going to sell you Matthew Stafford potentially?
I kind of want CJ Stroud more. I think I'll just.
If you're going to have to, I would prefer Matthew Stafford over Sam Howell, even though Sam Howell's actually been a better fantasy quarterback. But
I disagree. I'll take Sam Howell. I mean, the situations are really not that different when you think about it. Bad offensive lines. They're trying to run the ball a fair amount. Some weeks it's not really working for the Commanders, and Howell has to pass more. I mean, he's dropping back a lot.
Well, I suppose there are two suggestions. You can pick your favorite one, Chandler. I was suggesting Stafford, and he was suggesting.
If you can do that, then yeah, do that. I mean, if that's possible, would you? I don't see that type of trade happening in my leagues. But if you can pull that off,
I don't think so.
Yeah, I would by all means go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen, my friend. Stroud and Evans for Burrow and Debo. Mike Evans.
Hey,
he's trying
if they press yes, then do it. If the offer is good, then do any of those offers that you have there. I mean, your league better than we do, right? So if this is a trade that can get through in your league, then I would do it.
It's not as crazy, I guess, as we made. Mike Evans has picked up a lot of value, so it's not crazy. I don't think it's going to get it done. It's when you're getting a quarterback upgrade. Debo Samuel's kind of similar to Mike Evans, kind of that big play guy, kind of boomer bust kind of nature to him. So I would try to go for that trade, but I don't know if it'll get it done. Is Goff a good start next week against Ravens? My Stroud is on bye. And only Jimmy G and Ritter are on waiver wire.
You got to ride with Goff.
Yeah, Goff is starting. I think he's a consistent starter in one quarterback leagues. As far as I can tell, quarterback 10 on the year, quarterback 3, quarterback 4 performances these last couple of weeks. Yeah, I'm locking Jared Goff in most matchups. A little bit tougher against the Baltimore Ravens next week, but they've had enough. But it's kind of hard to tell what you're going to get from Baltimore on any given week. Kind of a little bit of a defense that shows up some weeks it doesn't. Battling some injuries throughout the year as well on the defensive side. So yeah, I'm riding with Jared Goff next week. Would not be considering either of those other two quarterbacks.
What about Jared Goff versus Deshaun Watson next week? Who would you start? Who's the guy there?
This is a bait question. This is just a give me a hard time question.
It is.
Jamie,
it is.
This bet's not going that great. Although I'd have to look at the fantasy points per game at the moment. We have 19.36 according to Sleeper for Jared Goff on fantasy points per game.
Watson's got to be like 16.
I almost want Deshaun Watson to keep missing games so I can get out of this bet, because I hope he misses like 2 more games and then I can check out of this bet. That might be.
You can.
That might be.
It doesn't sound like it.
We'll see here.
Chris wanted to bring the question back with Jimmy going against Chicago, still going with Goff. Yes, Jimmy left this game with an injury. I'm not certain of the severity yet, but he just keeps getting banged up. And the Bears were actually somewhat impressive up against Kirk Cousins today. So I'm gonna still hold off of Jimmy. There's too much volatility. I'm close to the situation. Big Jimmy G guy. Okay, big fan. Love the work. Not against Chicago. Not against Chicago. No, thank you.
18.47 points for Deshaun Watson. So
that's not true.
About a point. I'm telling.
That's not true.
I'm looking at it right here. What are you telling me?
Are you using like 4-point passing touchdowns or some shit?
Deshaun Watson has 18.47 points. He scored 19, 20, and 9 points. Apparently that comes out to, I'm not good at math, and I'm not going to break it out for the show right now, but supposedly that breaks down to 18.47 points per game.
All right, we'll see. We'll see, bud.
So less than a point. Oh,
I should have put in like a scenario, like if you miss the amount of games, you have to, instead of going bald, you have to go gray.
Yes, this is a head shave.
You got to go
for the end of the year. Deshaun Watson
power gray
Jared
move.
Goff. I have Deshaun Watson. He has Jared Goff. The loser has to shave their head. winner in fantasy points per game. So check that out in December to see who is going to have hair by January.
Who's going to be bald on Christmas? Let's ride.
Sergi Andino from Reddit asked, Devin Singletary is available in my league. He looked good today despite how bad the Texans' line is. The Texans are on a bye week next week. How much FAAB should I spend with the Texans not playing again until week 8? I'm guessing it should be less, but he's performed well the last 2 weeks, 12-team PPR.
Does it say how much FAAB they have?
No.
Less than 10% with them on bye. I don't think. I mean, the situation is sticky with running back in fantasy right now. I'm going to say 10 to 12% probably.
I wouldn't do it this week, maybe next week, but I don't think any running back's been that productive in Houston this year.
I think Singletary scored a touchdown last week, and this week he was actually pretty good on a per touch basis.
Yeah, I mean on a per touch basis, but yeah, like I said, it has been he's 6 points. He's fine. Didn't score. Like I said, I just with in a split timeshare with Dameon Pierce and really the offense not going through the running backs anyway. I just don't really see a ton of upside with Devin Singletary, but next week if he's available on the waiver wire, maybe 10% if you were desperate at running back, but he's not somebody.
Well, don't wait till then. Just when he's available for free, get him for free.
5% this week. 5% this week or free.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even 5% at most if you were bidding on him this week, I think.
Chris is coming back saying he thinks he's a clown for starting Jahan Dotson. I mean, I know a lot of people that would have to be considered clowns. So don't worry about it, man. It's all good. It's going to happen. It's fantasy. It's supposed to be fun. Don't be too hard on yourself. And I think Sam Howell is actually playing well. I mean, he threw 3 touchdowns today, and Atlanta really held him in check, but he was still able to walk away with really good fantasy value. He's been solid, so I really don't hate what he's doing. If anything, I want Ron Rivera gone so we get more control of Eric Bieniemy and let him run this process. And I don't know. I still think the offense would flourish even more than it is right now.
I don't think anybody expected Curtis Samuel to kind of take the role that he is either. He was a good waiver wire target that we talked about these last couple weeks.
There's a clip of me and Andrew going back and forth between I'm team Terry and he's team Dotson. And then at the end of it, I'm just like, well, what if we're just both dumb and it's Curtis Samuel? And that's exactly what it's been. And we were both like, nah, couldn't be.
Yeah. Curtis Samuel, yes, that's been the guy this year so far. He was the other player I highlighted in my article that would score a touchdown this week, and he did score a touchdown. So, like I said, little hot
Logan Thomas too. Logan Thomas too, but this week was a down week for Logan Thomas.
Anyone thought that the Browns would beat the Niners? Shut the F up. That's from JV.
Yeah. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, that was a surprise. There's no doubt about it. But they did lose Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey, so Brock Purdy a little lost without those guys in the lineup. So
clearly.
I expect that to change. Once they get back, I think the 49ers
George Kittle seemed a little lost without those guys as well. I believe he just had 1 catch. I mean, come on now.
Yeah, but the offense whole struggle, and George Kittle's boom or bust now.
Mm-hmm.
He's only going to have one great game in every 3 or 4 games at this point, and then it's going to be kind of hit and miss at this point for George Kittle. So somebody who I'm just kind of considering as a mid to low end tight end 1 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Just as likely to score 20 as he is 3 points. And, he's somebody I've been fading just a bit. But continuing on the waivers, Gabe Conti from the SGPN Fantasy Football Discord asks, Taysom Hill is available in my league. He put up numbers today, but my other tight ends are Laporta and Thomas. Should I bother with Hill? I'm 5th in waiver priority, 12-team PPR.
No. If you can get him for free, that's fine, but I wouldn't waste your waiver priority. I just keep trying to climb that ladder and then hold that one spot until you absolutely need it. So I would not waste your waiver priority on Taysom Hill, especially if you have Sam Laporta, top 5 tight end in fantasy right now. No.
Yep, Sam Laporta has been very good. Taysom Hill notoriously has a few big games every year.
Is that going to happen in week 9 when the Lions are on bye? You know what I mean?
Probably not.
Right.
So
exactly.
Taysom Hill, extremely tough to trust. You'll never know when to start him. So yeah, I'm always fine leaving Taysom Hill on the waiver wire. Only a best ball play or a DFS play, I think, in my opinion. Yeah, we know, Jamie. It could be me. Like I said, I just need Deshaun Watson to miss 2 more games. Just go ahead and maybe take a couple more, Deshaun
Losers
Watson.
way out. We're gonna have to think of like a punishment or something if you lose your way out. Something lighter.
Sit out a couple more games, Deshaun Watson, and then come back. Make sure you're healthy when you come back. Steven Lennox from Twitter asks, not a waiver question. I want to trade Joe Mixon. What running back or wide receiver should I look for in return? 12-team PPR.
Joe Mixon off a bad week. Cortland Sutton's been really good, but I feel like that's an adequate answer still for the expectation. Maybe Josh Downs. Like I don't really know what type of market you can get for Joe Mixon. I mean, and redraft. I guess Najee Harris you could get back, but you wouldn't want to do that.
Joe Mixon is I'm not, I don't know if he is the best sell at the moment because he is,
he's not.
He's the RB18 at the season just because he's been getting the volume, but just hasn't been very efficient with how the offense has been running.
Zach Moss.
Efficiency's always been a little bit of an issue for Joe Mixon, but Zach Moss, maybe. I would actually prefer Joe Mixon just because I do think Jonathan Taylor is eventually going to dial it up. As far as a wide receiver goes that he was asking about, man, it's pretty tough at the moment. I guess
Flowers.
I was just about to say Zay Flowers potentially.
Gabe Davis.
Terry McLaurin, even.
Terry, that's a good one. I like that one. I like Terry.
Going down the list a bit more. I don't know how somebody feels about Deebo Samuel at the moment. They could feel a little bit down.
You wouldn't want to do that regardless. The Niners offense is just too clicking when it's healthy. I mean, maybe like Gus Edwards and a receiver.
Like
Nico a 2
Collins,
for 1, maybe.
Yeah.
Nico Collins going on a bye, but yeah, I feel you. Or actually, I think they both are. I think Mixon's on a bye next week too.
Yeah, those are some of the guys I would consider.
I think there are some options where you might be able to get a 2 for 1, like maybe like a Chuba Hubbard and a receiver, maybe Gus Edwards and a receiver.
Chris Godwin.
I like that. I like that a lot. Maybe someone wants to sell Evans on a down week.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Yeah, either of the Tampa Bay wide receivers too, I think are good options. So
I agree.
That would be a couple of my thoughts. Joe Mixon, but like I said, maybe wait for a big week because Joe Mixon at some point here might be due for a big week because he's certainly still getting the volume. And I don't think he's ever, I don't think he's going to be a threat of losing it this season at least. Chris back in. I wasted my waiver number 1 priority on DeMarcado because I was desperate for a running back because my Sanders and Gibbs were down. And only had Moss on the bench. Yeah, it happens, unfortunately. You never quite know how the running back situations are going to shake out. It definitely looks like it could be Ingram, but James Conner hopefully going to be back sooner rather than later as well. We talked about him, I think, already a little bit, but we're going to finish up over here with a question from Zay a Bunch on Reddit talking about Sam Howell. Is he a reliable starting quarterback in 1 quarterback leagues? And how much of your $100 FAAB budget would you be willing to spend on him? 12-team PPR.
Of 100? Like I have the full bag still?
They didn't state specifically, but, considering an original $100 budget at least.
See, the problem is with single QB leagues is you really don't typically have to overspend on a quarterback. Like if I have to imagine if Sam Howell is on waivers, like there are some owners in your league that are just willing right now to settle for less, like starting Dak Prescott, starting Derek Carr, starting Matthew Stafford, starting Dan Jones when healthy, starting Geno Smith, starting Russell Wilson. I would take Sam Howell over all of those guys. So your league is already down on Howell if he's still available. I would say 10 to 15%. I mean, that's with the belief that you probably have more of your FAAB still. If you have less, maybe you do need to get more aggressive. Maybe you do actually have to spend a higher amount or a higher percentage. But again, like if he's available, then I have to just imagine that your league is just devaluing the position, period. They're just like, cool, I'll ride out with those names that I just mentioned. Maybe even Jordan Love, I would definitely still start Sam Howell over Jordan Love.
Sam Howell,
yeah,
I think
I'll say 15% max.
I mean, if you take out the one game where he had like 0 points, I mean, he's been very good. I mean, you'd be happy starting him every single week this season. He's clearly, I don't know if he's the long-term answer, but he is airing it out, and he's willing to air it out for sure. And he has been a very good fantasy player. Eric being a little more creativity. So if you were desperate at quarterback, I'd spend 5-7%, $5-7 on, on a $100 budget, depending on how desperate you were. If other people were hoarding quarterbacks and it just happened to be Sam Howell on the waiver wire. But like Jonathan's saying in the chat, maybe, if that is the case, like Justin's saying, nobody's been too aggressive on quarterbacks, see if you can get them for free.
Yeah, I just have to believe that your league is, like I said, utilizing those types of quarterbacks. Someone's got to be starting Ryan Tannehill or Mac Jones.
I mean, in one quarterback league, things are always pretty thin. Yeah, somebody's probably starting Geno Smith still. There's a couple guys here that people probably aren't moving off of quite yet.
Mm-hmm.
We'll wrap it up, though. Justin, you have anything going on this week at SGPN that you want to shout out?
Everything and everything. We got the Start Sit episode coming out Wednesday night. We're gonna have Joe Pepe on the episode. That'll be a lot of fun. I've got fantasy hockey every Sunday morning now, so we got that pod dropping. Thursday, I'll be on with Pat Callahan on Jacob Sports. So come on by. We're here. The lights are always on.
Joe's a fun guy. I work with him over at Face Off Sports Network, so definitely check that out, everybody. Yes, and we will be back next week talking about more waiver wire action week 8. I'll be releasing my touchdown, my flex starters based on touchdown opportunity article, some deeper league flex options. Yeah, and like I said, I hit on 3 or 4 this week. We'll see if Palmer plays. I'll have an opportunity to hit on 4 or 5 tomorrow, but if not, 3 or 4 this week, I'll certainly take it. So maybe check that out next week and see if I can continue on my hot streak. Take it easy, everybody. Jamie, Chris, Jonathan, everybody. We really appreciate you checking out the live stream. Chandler, thank you so much. Smokey the Cat. Have a great night, everybody, and we will see you again next time. We appreciate it.